Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm squeezing this in between a morning stream and an evening stream again, but much to your surprise, I ate before today's show. I just finished cooking. I got the empty plate right here, as a matter of fact. Decided I should get this done because I got raid again in like 2 hours. My schedule's been so packed on the Twitch side, and I apologize. That's meant less YouTube content over the past couple of weeks, but it's been a very feel-good thing for me. It's been kind of the space I need, especially because I already know, this month we're going to have that September 18th live letter. There's probably going to be so much to extrapolate from that before even considering Media Tour stuff, regardless of whether or not I'm invited or attend Media Tour. There's going to be so many things you got to do for the YouTube channel, and things I'm looking forward to doing for the YouTube channel. So it's kind of, I guess, not on purpose that I'm not making a lot of content, unlike previous times where I'm like, mental blocked and stuff like that. It's just a shift of focus, which happens to align with trying to balance everything, I suppose. So I'm doing good, though. Ready to answer some questions and then get to raid right after. So first, let me thank our sponsors over on Patreon. They support us. They don't have to. They're there because they want to be. I don't know why they're there, but we appreciate them. So thank you to all of our sponsors over on Patreon. Of course, our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Janova, and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond. I said beyond and ayond were the words that almost came out of my mouth. Thank you to both of them. Thank you to everyone over there. And of course, thank you to you for tuning in, asking questions, and listening to my answers. For whatever reason, you may validate them in your own, I don't know. I'm going to start answering questions now. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Haps, long time watcher, second time answer. Cool, welcome. As we wait for the launch of Endwalker, I found myself with a lot of downtime in XIV, and that left me with more time for Genshin Impact. I was wondering what your overall thoughts were on the game. I know you stream from time to time, and I watch your polls for Ayaka, and inspired me to play a ton of catch-up with the game. Been having a bunch of fun. Yet another game with fishing and achievements. Yeah, that's brand new with the most recent patch, though. So Genshin I largely enjoy. I find myself teetering on levels of interest with it. Like, there are times where I'm really interested in what they're doing, and that's kind of like I'd say like right when it launched at 1.0, and then probably again around like 1.3, and then it tapered off a little bit till we got close to 2.0, and then 2.0 has been really cool, 2.1 has been really good so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing 2.2 and beyond. So story's good, combat basic but satisfying, music solid across the board. Of course, the biggest thing with it is the actual content, because it is essentially a mobile game released as a PC/console game, also available on mobile. It, of course, comes with the usual trappings of mobile games, whether that's being microtransactions as well as kind of staggered content releases that really, if you're all caught up on the game, last you a few days at most, if not just 15 minutes on login, just something else extra to do. But for people catching up, it's like another thing on top of what they're already trying to catch up on. So it's a balance between having too many things that people need to catch up on and a balance of trying to make the long-time players still interested. So it's a tough balance to find, but it does it fairly well. I never feel like I'm too overwhelmed to log into Genshin for a little bit and get stuff done. Even though I've barely made any time for it this first half of the month, I do need to finish my Abyss before the 15th so I can make sure I get that, the rewards that I get every time. And I'm hoping to have Ball. She needs one more piece for her artifact to be in a pretty good spot for me to take probably all the way through Abyss 9 through 12 for this set. Might have to do it without her, though, just because I have other characters that would be suited to that. So it's a lot of fun. Is it a game that... How would I describe this? Is it a game that I could tell anybody to play? No. I do think you very much need to consider how much those gacha mechanics matter to you, because while they're not that important to completing 99% of the content in the game, unlike most gachas which try to power gate you on pulling from the most recent stuff, it does also... It's still a microtransaction at the end of the day. And people who are very susceptible to FOMO, which is fear of missing out, may have issues with skipping banners and thus may be more tempted to reach into the wallet. So it's really a personality thing. But if you enjoy it and you want to support it, go right ahead. I enjoy it, and I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it as well. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi. Hey. Hope you're having a good one. You too. I recently got my 50th clear of Baldesion. Oh my god. Listen, I like Baldesion. I don't like 50 clears of Baldesion that much. How do you feel about Eureka as a whole? I've always found Eureka more fun and rewarding than Bozja from being able to level apart from being able to level in the ladder. What do you think they'll do with the speed belts? I think speed belt's gone. I don't think they replace it with a speed ring or anything like that. I think they'll just allow it to be that item that you managed to collect before it was removed, and you'll have that as a status symbol that matters to you and probably you only. As for Eureka and Bozja, I'm torn. I mean, I like Delubrum way more than BA, but BA has a better reward structure. When Pagos first came out, I literally stopped and played Final Fantasy XI instead. So if I consider the way that it is to do it now, which I think is way easier than people give it credit for, I'm glad to see so many people have used my series as of late to try and get their foot in the door and found that it was actually super easy to get a weapon and even an armor set done, other than the occasional logogram that's just kind of annoying to get. They're both fun just for different reasons. I wish Bozja... Here's the thing. I wish Bozja had bunnies, and I wish I could level in Eureka. But otherwise, I'm largely equal on both of them, just for very, very different reasons. Eureka was a long-time answer to a lore question that had been lingering since 2.x, and Bozja is a continuation of one of my favorite Raid series stories, and it doesn't have the greatest conclusion, but it's still a lot of lore, a lot of development of characters and things that I found very, very satisfying. Definitely more satisfying than in Eureka, where the story, other than telling me what Eureka was and kind of the finale, the story I could have, just left it, in all honesty. So I think I'll give the edge to Bozja. I think it's more valuable as a whole, and I think that it'll always be relatively popular for the reasons that you've listed here, like being able to level in it. I think it'll always be lucrative. I think Eureka will be too, but just it'll always be very specifically people going to try and get it done to get to BA to make money or not do it at all. Or maybe Poetics. I don't know. They're pretty equal. I'm just going to give the edge to Bozja because that's how I feel in the moment. Next one. Ooh, you just barely did the cutoff with this one 3 hours ago. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps. Quick one for you. What are your plans to get Reaper to 71 when Endwalker drops? So, early access is on a Friday. That means you have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, although really not Thursday because the servers will be down pretty much the whole day, to prepare whatever you're going to be doing. Those are your last couple days. On Tuesday, grab a Wondrous Tale. And you don't even have to do this on this Tuesday. You can do this the week before because Wondrous Tales do last 2 weeks. Grab a Wondrous Tales the week before, not that Tuesday, and finish it, but don't turn it in. Wondrous Tales is half a level. 70 to 70 and a half, done. Also, prep some challenge logs. You need, 3 leveling roulettes and 5 dungeons, I think, are 2 of the different ones. So you do 2 roulettes, and then you do 2 dungeons, and you don't touch a dungeon or roulette for the rest of the time. Then when you log in, you do a leveling roulette. Now, if you do it with friends, this is safer, because obviously there's always the chance you get Ifrit, Garuda, or Titan, and that completely throws the entire plan away. But the idea is you'll do the leveling roulette, you'll get a dungeon, and then you'll get both those challenge logs done, plus the level roulette completion, plus whatever EXP in the dungeon, and bam, you'll be 71 off those 2 activities. If you have a pre-made of 4 people, then what you can do is the limited leveling roulette, which is an option in your roulette settings, which will limit it to be as low. The lowest level dungeon you'll get is level 63 dungeon. So Shisui of the Violet Tide is the lowest level dungeon you'd be able to get with a pre-made of 4 with that. And that guarantees so much more experience. So that's probably going to be the play. It's going to be a Wondrous Tales turn in for half a level after unlocking Reaper, followed by a limited leveling roulette. I already have a crew of 4 set up, myself included, obviously. And off that, I should be 71, 15 minutes tops. You can also do Pixie Dailies if you don't have that same privilege, or if you leveling roulette and you get something like Ifrit, Garuda, or Titan, because Pixie Dailies are basically like half a level also. So you can honestly get both those done pretty quick. I would personally rather save the Pixie Dailies for maybe Sage's first half a level if I plan on doing it the same weekend. You could do another Wondrous Tales after you hit 90, as long as you hit it before Tuesday, and then you can turn that in and then do a set of Pixie Dailies, and you'll be done on Sage to get to 71, so you can hop into Bozja. But yeah, Pixie Dailies, Wondrous Tales, leveling, roulette should be the only 3 activities you need to consider, and then it's a matter of whether you'll dungeon spam or do Bozja, and that's going to be up to you. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey again, Haps. Hello, grats on the 200 clear. Thank you. So as you know, there will be a stats question and Endwalker. Very aware. What is your opinion on what might happen to stats inside of Palace and Heaven on High? It might become harder as each patch cycle releases change abilities. So in an ideal world, Palace and Heaven on High are no different. The big thing with the stat squish is if you are doing an activity designed for a specific item level, that the stat squish will have no effect on you. If you are 500 doing item level 500 content, it should feel exactly the same. Where the difference might be is if you're, let's say, item level 530, and you're doing something that's item level 500. You might used to being a certain amount more powerful than the content, and you probably won't be as different between it. With Palace in Heaven, other than your ether pool, your stats are pretty linear, and because of that, the thing that I think is more concerning for Palace or Heaven on High are job changes below level 60 and 70. Do things get removed below those level ranges? Are things added to those level ranges that make them stronger? Those, to me, are the more important considerations than the stat squish itself. Now, that's not to say they couldn't screw it up. That's always got to be the little asterisk next to this kind of statement. But in an ideal world, the job changes will matter more than the stat squish in deep dungeons. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how's it going? Hello. Going swell? Hope the same for you. Hopefully good. It is. Anyway, I've noticed Larry Zara's been posting a couple videos on how things were in A Realm Reborn and Heavensward. I was wondering if there's anything memorable to you from a prior expansion that is no longer. Bonus of Aloha standing behind you. No, it was almost Ivy. I actually have the tower here. Ivy was going to be in the tower for this episode, but she ran out of the room when I started moving the tower because she doesn't like large objects being moved. It scares her, so she just pisses off. Unlike Aloha, who just watches me do it. No, nothing memorable. There's like things I would meme on, like TP. For me, honestly, the memories themselves from those old days are more relevant than the way the game functioned at any point. I don't miss cleric stance. I don't miss tank stance dancing. I prefer to have what is a lower barrier for entry to things like tank and healer, so people can at least attempt to pick it up, even if they're still not good at it. At the very least, it doesn't feel like the game is actively inhibiting them if they don't want to take this high risk, high reward playstyle that used to be part of the skill ceiling for those roles. And that's really the only thing that comes to mind at all. And because those things, I still am not really like thinking about them. I can't really say there's any gameplay aspect. I will go back to 1.0 and bring up the fact that we could request someone else to repair our gear, and we've been asking for that for 8 years now, and we still don't have it. So, may not be A Realm Reborn, but 1.0, request a repair, please, bring it back, because I'm tired of people saying, oh, sorry, I forgot to repair. You don't have crafters on this character? It's an ult, I'm not going to level crafters. Listen, I hate you, please, level them, please. Just let me request repair, please. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm doing alright. You doing alright? I'm doing alright. Long time viewer, first time asker. Welcome. Quick question, maybe lightning roundable. What are your recommended NPCs for Trust Dungeons? Been leveling up my last few DPS jobs, and Shadowbringers dungeons are a slog, taking up to 30 minutes. Sick of the Fate grind in Zadnor. So, that depends on the role. You said your last few DPS jobs, so I'm assuming you need a tank, a healer, and a DPS. I am indifferent between G'raha and Thancred. For tank, I honestly... I haven't done enough with G'raha to notice if there's a difference, and I never had an issue with Thancred in the first place. He's plenty tanky. The one or two I've done with G'raha, he's been plenty tanky as well, so I don't have any insight onto the tank role, but that they both perform just fine relative to how tank trusts function overall. For healing, I hate Urianger. I feel like he more often just doesn't heal and lets people die, especially because I like to do big pulls in Trust Dungeons still, so I need a somewhat attentive healer. And so I found Alphino is more consistent. His Eloquiums are a little bit stronger also, I feel. So the shields that you get from him are infinitely more useful, in my opinion. So Alphino, easy. His Carbuncle also does give a damage buff, so it's not entirely a loss. Now the DPS is the big one. G'raha, again, I have very little experience with him in pretty much any of the roles, so I'm only going to go with what I actually know. I usually go Alice if I'm playing a DPS. If I'm playing a healer or a tank, I normally go Alice and Y'shtola. Y'shtola is... So all of the trusts, when they stop DPSing to do mechanics, and then they come out of that, they normally burst enemies harder. And I found that Y'shtola's burst is more effective on average than the other NPCs. And for Alice, because I like to do big pulls, it's nice to have a couple of things. One, sometimes a big pull, the AI just doesn't go the way I want it to, and her having Verraise sometimes means I can kite enemies around. She has Vercure, Verraise, and she can use them. She doesn't always, but she can use them. And I find that incredibly useful. She's quick on the limit break trigger finger, so it's not always great, but if you're someone who finds yourself not very attentive, it's at least nice that she does it occasionally. If you are a ranged DPS, though, definitely LB packs before she uses it on bosses. And then her DPS is just good. Like, her and Y'shtola aren't too far apart, I find, unless she has to stop and cast for cures and for raises and stuff. So yeah, if I was playing a DPS, I'd probably go Alice, Alphinaud, Thancred, personally. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, over the last month or so, I've fallen in love with Blue Mage. Hello, by the way. The flexibility in raids and also things you can get really, really silly. Yeah, Blue Mage can be a lot of fun if you're willing to put the time into it. What's your thoughts on Blue Mage going into Endwalker? I made a bet that Blue can do Eden. Once Blue can do Eden, there will be a mount for Omega Eden. Completely agree. You ever think Blue will be able to do other content like BA or DRS? No. I don't think they'll allow them in Bozja. They already won't allow them in Eureka, and I don't think they're going to let them into deep dungeons. So, much to my disappointment, I don't expect much in the way of horizontal Blue Mage options in regards to content, or tangential Blue Mage content that isn't just the Masked Carnival or doing the raids, which is very upsetting to me because I think it's a lot of potential wasted. I will say this, mount for Blue Mage, Titan Tank. Calling it now. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, quick lightning round question. I like that people are asking lightning round questions now, but I'm taking them as normal ones. Are you planning to do a special live reaction State of Realm? Yes, Sly, Ethis, and I, Ethis will be returning, are planning on doing a live viewing for that, which will be uploaded to YouTube. We will also be doing a formal live letter, although when that is will either be the following day or the following week. We're also working with Ethis to do, finally, our spoiler cast, our Air Zivia. He says he's interested in it. He wants to get them done in the next month. And it's just going to be a matter of respecting his time and his schedule with the changes that have happened in his life as of late. So once we've got that all worked out, those are 3 shows that I can guarantee will come in the next 4 to 5 weeks. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hope your day is treating you well. It is, and I hope the same for you. Been watching you for a while, and your videos have always given me a boost of enthusiasm for 14 as a whole, so thank you. Glad you enjoy it. Now for my lengthy question, which, by the way, is not very lengthy, I can tell you, compared to some of the other ones I get. What are your thoughts and opinions on expanding the level sync feature beyond just fates and allow using them when running field content? Giving a party sync button from the party window sets you within a few levels of the lowest level party member. Always excited when a new friend joins the game, but quickly devolves into feeling like babysitting when not participating in fates. Because if I party with them, I kill any chance of them getting XP from mobs in those early levels. Yeah, only in the fate kills will that not happen, as long as you're both synced. You both specifically have to be synced for that. I don't think there's enough of a reason to do it, other than exactly the scenario you've just added. And that is such a small portion, and such a non-focus of Final Fantasy XIV, I think is the best way to put it. It's very, very far from, I guess, something that has enough of a reach to make it valuable for the dev time that it would take, for the QA time that it would take. Because the game's already not built to do it, it's actually probably kind of annoying to do on the back end. So I'm going to say that while the exact scenario you've given is a place that could be useful, it is also not very likely that they ever do anything for it, just because, you know, it's so niche. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. How are you? I'm doing fine. Hopefully you're doing all right as well. First time asker, welcome. I have 3 different questions for you. Might be a little long. I don't think so. I haven't read them yet, but I don't think so. 1, what is the New World exactly, and geographically speaking, where would it be located? So the New World is essentially the Americas. So Eorzea is very much built to be similar to the Earth globe. Obviously, it's not an exact science, but you can find certain things that are similar. You can find inspirations from France, from Africa, from the Far East, from China, from Japan. And the New World is effectively the Americas. If you do the Blue Mage quest, it goes into a little bit more details about the natives there and how they're dealing with people coming over to establish trade routes and colonization. And it's very reminiscent of course, the late 1700s in America. And for that, it is directly across the ocean, west from the mainland, from... What's the Eorzea. Eorzea is not the whole planet, by the way. Hydaelyn is the planet. Eorzea is specifically the groupings of continents Aldenard and Vilbrand. There you go. Aldenard and Vilbrand. God, I'm so bad at these names. Where we basically were the 4 city-states, including Ishgard, all kind of exist, and Alamigo off to the east. So that's where it is, just across the ocean, directly to the west. When are you going to start State of the Realm Weekly again? When there's something to talk about. I just talked about this in the other question, so I think that answer still pretty much holds true for this one. And 3, I would like Reaper to have a backflip or a cap closer with a void sent yeets. What is your opinion? In or out of combat? Yeah, I don't know if you'll see it out of combat, but I have a feeling we'll have some sort of hilarious void sent pull me in kind of thing. I'll be surprised if we don't. I've already thought about that too. So, but out of combat, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good to see you are doing well every week like this, but I was wondering. Hello to you too, by the way. Good to see you are doing well. It's kind of a hello. It's like skipping the hello and going right to the person's emotions. And you know what? Sometimes that means you matter more. Or you care more. What would you do if someone's taking off ground markers right before the beginning of pulls? I leave most of the time, quite frankly. I know that you're mostly referring to 24-mans. 8-mans, this really doesn't happen very often. But at this point, I'm like, all right, I'll make you wait. I don't care. Because here's the thing. If they pull ground markers away and people start dying, then I tend to correlate the two. I do one more pull, and if it happens again, then I'm like, you know what? I don't need this roulette that bad. I'm just going to leave. I find it's better to just remove myself from annoying situations instead of trying to make all hoot and hollering. Because most of the time you can't tell who's taking the markers away. Not as far as I know, because I try to stay out of those situations to begin with. So that's the best I got, unfortunately. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, you doing all right? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Quick question, if you don't mind. I so very mind. How dare you? This is my weekly Q&A, and you come in here asking questions? Foolish. But I guess I'll let it slide. They now, let's see. They have now removed the ability to buy previous weapons with tokens and tomestones. Do you know if they'll be doing the same thing immediately when Endwalker comes out? If so, saving 2 tomestones I got and 2k I put into getting Token Sage Reaper are now pointless. Not sure who you're referring to. They always remove the first set of tomes in every. So if you're newer to Shadowbringers, this is a more relevant question, I suppose. They always remove the very first tomestone specifically, or the very first type of tomestone that comes out in an expansion. You know, they give you the option to exchange it for poetics, but then the 0.4 patch rolls around and it's removed. What happens when a new expansion comes out is all the level 80 stuff that cost Revelation, that cost Allegory, that will now cost Poetics. And your Poetics you have now, the 2k Poetics you may have, will be able to purchase all that stuff. Any Poetics you had of Allegory and Revelation, in this case, you can convert to Poetics at your own leisure, as long as it's before probably like 6.2, I imagine. Maybe it's 6.1, don't really remember. But you have some time. It's not automatic. You can go to Mordona and convert the Allegory and Revelation to Poetics. It's like a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio. So like 2,000 Revelation would probably be like, 400 or 500 Poetics, and Allegory is similar. But all the other stuff it'll cost Poetics. So they won't remove. You'll definitely have an item level 530 Reaper and Sage weapon that you can buy with, the Savage Tomestone and the upgrade material and all the stuff that you would normally buy a Tomestone weapon with now. So you don't have to worry about anything, basically. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, hello. Just last night, I fell into Biss for 3,600 spell speed Black Mage. Interesting thing to fall into, but I'm there too, so I feel you. Aside from the final relic, I wanted to know what kind of set you were doing for your recent Black Mage adventures into Savage and stuff. I know you're not an authority on what's better, but I'd like to get a sense on what is comfy for you doing high-end stuff. I'm a tank and melee main. I prefer the no-frills opener, but have enjoyed messing with the slower ones too. So, because I was learning Black Mage essentially for the first time, I've only leveled it to 50, 60, 70, 80, never actually done any Savage content in it. The only place I even remotely messed with it was inside Bosja, where I could just ignore cast times because I was a Watcher Black Mage in there, and you don't need to do anything once you have those actions from Zadnor. So, for Savage and whatnot, I went with Spell Speed, because I was more concerned with needing to move at the last second to cast a spell that would mean either I lose my stacks or I keep them. And I didn't want to play that close of a game because I didn't have the experience to know how good or bad it would be. So as somebody with over 3,600 spell speed, I can tell you that it is very cozy. There's a lot of different openers you have a choice between. None of them are too difficult to pull off, but they all are different depending on the fight. It gives you a lot of options that you don't need to be overly concerned about. With the low spell speed Black Mage build, the crit build does have a higher ceiling of damage. Of course, it being crit, it's a little more RNG. But when you have those big Fire 4s, when you have those 200k plus despairs, that's what's going to ruin that. Oh boy, that's going to make a parse just go to a whole nother level. So much easier to get a good crit run and get a higher parse on a perfect play than it is to try to do it on spell speed. But, there's other options to weigh. On crit, your triple casts, your swift casts, your instant casts are actually better for mobility on the low spell speed build because your global cooldown is longer, so you have more time to move with those instant casts. Now, is it a lot of time? No, but it could be very noticeable on the movement itself. So it depends, in my opinion, as again, not a an authority on it because I've not been playing it too long. I found spell speed way more comfy for me, but I do envy the crit for those bigger numbers, as well as the longer time you have to actually do movement because your global cooldown itself is actually longer. So those would be the things I would consider when picking which one I want to play for comfort, because they can both do high purples, oranges, but one of them just has an easier time, but of course has some pros and cons. All right, and the last several questions have comments under them that just answer the question. I like when people do this because it just shortens my recording time. Like there was, where's State of the Realm? I answered that earlier in this, but there's also a completely accurate reply under that. There was another one about getting into Ultimates, like being a first-time Ultimate player. They're worried they'll spend several months in pugs, and there's 2 replies under that. People are talking about their experiences in the Party Finder, data centers, rating and recruitment discords, and those are all the same things I would have said. The ultimate scene for newer raiders, it can be tough. You know, you do have to start with some fresh prog, but there are discords for all the different data centers, so you just got to find the one that applies to you best. Whichever one actually applies to you in the first place, I would probably say. Then there's one talking about, are there technically add-ons? And no, they are third-party, basically client-altering setups that you can do, things that just alter your client in ways that it's not entirely intended to do, and again, not supported by the developers. So all of them, again, are against terms of service, but the development team is pretty much a don't harass people. We won't do anything about it unless the tool gets too egregious. So there you can find stuff about that all over YouTube, Twitch. There's people who are far more interested in that than I am. I'm not a huge fan of anything DBM-like. I think for some people, it's an accessibility tool. For some people, it's an excuse to not learn. And that's a tough line to ride, and I've never been a huge fan. There's other things that they can do that I'm also, it's kind of like borderline. If somebody just took this one step further and they could do it very easily, it could actually be a very game-changing hack, and I don't want something like that being super accessible to people. So hopefully the developers take notice and use that to provide, that provides insight to them to make changes that make these things less necessary. That's the biggest thing I take away from a lot of the third-party add-ons, is I hope that the devs see that, look at what people are using them for, and go, okay, we don't want these things to exist, so clearly we need to do something within our game, within our boundaries, that is supported and that we can always troubleshoot and help with and support our players with. There was a question about raid design for Savage. This one actually didn't have a comment under it. Let's see. Savage, Shadowbringer's easier. Savage has been about the same since Creator. I don't really think there's been a tier that I really think stands out as much harder or much easier. Individual fights, maybe, but like Titan and Shiva and even Promise were all really, really good. And I felt like more challenging to me than Neo X Death or Godka or even Omega. Like some of those fights are just kind of tedious. I really don't like Stormblood Savage design for the most part. Other than 011 and like 03, there's a lot of fights I don't like in Omega. Looking back, it's one of my least favorite like expansions of 8-man raiding, even if it was kind of fun to parse. So it's whatever. I just don't want Gordius Days back. I world progged through Gordius, and then that forced me to sit out from Midas because it was so time consuming and agonizing. It almost killed like Final Fantasy 14 again, in my opinion. It was one of the lowest points of Final Fantasy 14 that we've had since it was re-released. So I definitely don't want anything back from that. Correction to last week. Mail VR do launch with early access. I'm sorry, I mixed up my statements with that and housing for some reason, because housing is not the new housing district is until 6.1. That's a correction from last week. I don't know why I said that last week, but doing it on a Saturday and trying to rush it out before the Sunday, and it was also late, probably just me being dumb. Wouldn't be surprising. Someone asking if there will be Bojda relics for Reaper and Sage. There's no reason to believe there would be. They've never released an old relic for a new job, so I don't see why that would be any different, so I'm going to say no. Someone asked, why do ninjas have reduced fall damage, but dragoons don't? They say it's a sarcastic question. I think it's a very reasonable question, and I think it's useless either way, so it doesn't matter. And that's why it's probably a good thing it's actually a sarcastic question. Somebody asking if you have an E12S coffer, will you be able to get a Reaper or Sage weapon? Historically, the answer has been yes, specifically from the final raid tier of the previous expansion. There is normally a weapon for the new jobs when it comes out. So if you have one of those and 8 books put away or 8 pages put away, you should be able to buy a Reaper and Sage weapon, or if you just have one, buy one of them. Either way. But yes, you should be able to grab a Reaper or a Sage weapon with the E12S coffer. Or with the pages as well. You don't even need the coffer, you can just use the pages. Anything else I need to correct or anything like that? I think I got every other question. There might be like some comments here or there that I could go back on. Somebody asking if I was going to do a story recap. I've considered it, but not an actual recap per se. I had another idea for it, but in case I do it, I'm not going to spoil it for you now because I would make the final video far less cool. Because I have it all visualized in my head of what I would do for that, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm going to be here all day. And then just a few people saying they're glad to see that I've been collaborating with other people a little bit more. Yeah, it's been tough. Again, I'm super out of my element with that. I've always been kind of a loner when it comes to doing content because I don't know how to enter social circles and not look like it's clout chasing or uncomfortable or even to just fit in. Like, I don't know how to do any of it. I always think, oh, they don't need me in there, or, they're probably just having a good time. I don't want to impose, or people are just gonna think I'm doing it because they're real popular, and I don't even know if we get along. It's like it's a lot of overthinking. Every single possible element and excuse I can come up with in my head to not socialize with another person generally runs through my head every single time I have to socialize with another person. So it's been very uncomfortable, but also very fun when I can get over that initial hurdle of actually beginning a conversation with somebody. Whether that be somebody else introducing us, like Todd inviting me to do the Rich Cop stuff, or Rin, who just last night, from recording this at the very least, we did a bunch of warrior duos through some Stormblood Savages. We did Neo Exdeath in one try. Went through Phantom Train and memed a bit. We laughed. We made some jokes. We tried Chaos. We got it to Enrage. And we had a good time. It was chill. I just wish I was better at doing these things and initiating these things, because boy am I not. But with that, that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thank you for asking your questions. If you have a question, put it in the comment section of the video below. And yeah, hopefully I'll get to it. Your question, that is. I'll definitely get to the Q&A, but your question. Although next week's going to be content hell. Even just from the live letter I plan on making, like a ton of videos before there's even any Media Tour related information. So, okay. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's definitely good. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the video. I got to do some stuff before I raid. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I will see you all next week, where we will probably have a lot more questions about recent stuff starting on Friday. And I'll see you guys then. Until then.